One of my favorite things that I think that separates my work from a lot of people's is how sharp it looks on a mobile device. Now, I've looked into how mobile devices actually interpret screen data and how the pixels interpret colors and everything. So, this is not an arbitrary method, it's actually pretty based on the way that the screens interpret the data that is given to it. So, as far as improving the sharpening of your image, especially for mobile device, is you want to first off, like, let's take a normal contrast. We have a contrast curve here. It's very basic. First thing you want to try to do when you are sharpening for mobile is dial this contrasting that you're doing, a normal contrasting, kind of dial that back a little bit so it's not as contrasty. And the reason that we're doing that, shutting off this like harder contrast, is not because we won't maybe dial it in later at the end result, but when you are contrasting an image like this, we're already losing data and the difference between the smaller pixels. So the first thing that we want to do is retain the data of those smaller pixels so that you can sharpen, and then you do the last step of the major contrast. What a lot of people do. In my opinion, they do it wrong. They do it backwards. They do contrast and then they do sharpening at the end. But what we want to do is do all the sharpening first and then the contrast. But that's kind of an extra thing. I want to show you this little technique I do to improve your method of sharpening in Photoshop. So here's before, and here would be after. And I put it a little extreme because I'm not sure what screen is going to interpret. So I would actually probably have it more like this. So let's shut it off like that. And we can dial it in very nicely. So what we want to do, I'm going to delete these. Damn it. All right, so first thing, it's a popular technique, but what we want to do is just a little tweak on it. We're going to do the high pass method. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is duplicate your layer. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go down to filter, high pass. And what that's going to do is bring up this dialog box, and we'll start at 0 because most of it. This is going to give us it's a texture map. It's like a difference of the different. It's not worth getting into. Anyways, it's a texture map, and what we're going to do is we're going to dial it in, not so that we see it this much. We want to dial it in from 0 until we just get a little bit of detail. So now we're getting the sharpening. We want maybe a little bit more. Now, we don't want to go too much. In fact, we want to dial it a little less than you would figure. So I think 2 would be good. So the reason that we're doing it less is because we're going to be working on this in a very editable way. So let's put this into overlay. That might not be right. Let's do a soft light. So at this point, we have a sharpening layer. You could probably barely see it. And we want to just duplicate a whole bunch of times, too many times. Now we have this really super sharp, really gritty image, which is good. However, it's global and it might be too much, but what we want to do is take that and then all the layers and put it into a group with Command G, or drag them into this folder here. So now we have all of them in this folder. I'm going to leave them all on for now because what we're going to do at this point is we are going to put a mask on that, holding Alt and clicking that mask. We're going to make a negative mask because it just means nothing is happening, nothing is showing up. We're going to paint in with white on this layer, and I'm going to put on this little touch sensitive thing because I'm on a Wacom. I want to just kind of paint it in where I want that sharpening. So I'm just going to kind of paint it in like this. And I like doing hair. I think sharpening on hair looks really good. It's just, I think it just makes it pop and it really supports things. I avoid skin completely, unless I'm doing black and white, then I think it looks good, but yeah, that's kind of nice. So the reason we're doing this mask is because it's non-destructive. That's what I love as far as methods go. So now I'm reversing that, hitting X, so I can take that off of these unsightly areas where it's sharpened. I didn't really want it to be. Maybe a little down there, there. And since I'm on touch sensitive, I can kind of just dial that back a little. So there we go. We have a pretty good sharpening mask, but we're not quite done because to be honest, I think that's taking away from the image. So at this point, we just go back in. We just kind of, since we did smaller, we started with a smaller sharpening, we can dial this back nicely by shutting off the appropriate amount of sharpening layers, or adding more. You know, if you didn't think it was enough, you could keep adding them, because they are multiplying against themselves. Multiplying maybe not be the right word, but so I think maybe that's not bad. I think that this is pretty good if we take that back. I think that's a nice sharpening effect. And now every image is going to be different of what you want to sharpen, but the whole thing is that you get this contrast map, or this contrast of what's in focus and what's not, and everything like that, which really, really makes a nicer image. So that's it. It's kind of a off the cuff late night tutorial. So if you like these, let me know, because they're easy to make. So until next time, guys, thanks. Peace.